All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. We are going to be working on the core today, and as I'm sure all of you know, an important factor in keeping healthy in your spine, in your hips, being efficient for rowing. So, um, the way I typically teach most of my yoga practices, and certainly when I'm working a little bit more on strength, is to offer a progression, meaning I start with a simple or basic or the least challenging version of the movement or the pose that I'm doing, and then I'll offer some continued challenge. And if you're feeling like your body is ready for that or you have the energy for it, feel free to take the next step, the next challenged one as we go. But I want you to also pause and think whether it's helpful for you to do the more challenging version. And especially with the core, we're thinking about stability. So say, for instance, when we're in plank, if you feel your low back sagging or if you feel your hips elevating up, then you're not really doing yourself a favor by making it more challenging. So I would offer maybe going to the least challenging or taking a step back and working on engaging and controlling the musculature rather than advancing beyond maybe what your body is capable of. It doesn't actually really help. So pushing yourself with core and not maintaining your form is not advantageous. So I'm just throwing that out there. And so you'll see the progression, you might see some variations. If anything is painful or uncomfortable, those are reasons to modify, substitute, come into a resting position at any time during the practice. I am going to be using my blanket today, mostly for padding my knees. You might like to have the blocks for the practice today. We will be doing a quad stretch. It might be helpful to have the strap if you struggle to reach back and find your foot. We're going to start lying on our backs, face up here, and we'll start in some stillness as we often do so that we can focus on the breath and come into this present moment and be present with the sensations in our bodies. And it feels like it took a lot of effort to get yourself here at this time, yourself on the mat. Sometimes it's helpful to use the breath to allow you to transition into the present moment. So you might take that inhale through the nose, open the mouth, let out a sigh. Maybe one more like that. And then closing the mouth and begin breathing through the nose. Bringing your focus to the breath. As we work the core today, remember that the top part of the core, kind of the lid of your core, is the diaphragm, this primary muscle of breathing that separates the lungs from the abdomen. So as you breathe here, notice the movement of the rib cage, the belly expanding in all directions as you breathe in. As you breathe out, feeling it contract. It's a kind of passive movement on the exhale. So the breath is always important in the yoga practice, but very important as we work the core, because we want to work with that lid, the diaphragm. We want to work with the sides, the obliques, the rectus abdominis, the transverse abdominis. And then the base of the core is your pelvic floor, which also contracts and relaxes with your breath. Take the next few breaths to set an intention for your practice. Remembering, recalling the reason that you've shown up today. Is it about reconnecting with your body? Having this moving mindfulness practice in your life? Is it about relaxing, releasing tension, getting stronger, being a better rower? Whatever your reason for showing up, bring this thought to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. So we'll begin to move from here. I'm going to have you come on a little bit of a diagonal on your mat. So move your hips up and over to the left a little bit. Maybe the head and shoulders over towards your right, just a few inches. Knees are bent. So my right foot is on the mat and my left foot is off the mat here. I'm going to lengthen this left leg. So I'm straightening out that leg, pushing out through the heel. And as I lengthen that leg out, you might notice that the low back pulls away from the floor. And then we're going to bend that knee, slide the heel back towards you. Notice how the low back flattens into the floor. So we'll do this again. On your inhale, lengthen out through that left leg, low back sort of arches away from the floor. And then on your exhale, bend the knee, slide the foot in, press your low back into the floor intentionally. We'll do that one more time like this. So we inhale, lengthen out through that left leg. Exhale, flatten the low back, pull the foot in towards you. So you could keep it here a little bit more subtle, focusing on the lower core and the hip flexors with this. Or inhale, stretch that leg out, the low back pulls away from the floor, and then exhale, instead of sliding the foot, lift it up, press the low back into the floor as the knee comes in. And again, we inhale, lengthen that leg out, low back arching. Exhale, flatten the low back, pull the knee in towards you. So you could keep it here, head and shoulders grounded, or bring the hands behind the head, elbows pointing out. The hands are just supporting the weight of the head. We lengthen out through the left leg, exhale, pull it in. You could lift the head and shoulders up off the floor, getting the upper abdominals in. Inhale, lower the head, lengthen the leg. Exhale, pull in. Maybe you're lifting head and shoulders. Inhale, reach it out long, lower the head. I'm going to do two more, whatever variation, whatever form of this abdominal engagement with the hip flexors. So we're integrating hip flexors and the abdominals here. All right, lower that foot down. Rock your knees gently side to side. And then, of course, we do this on the other side. So you're going to walk your hips over. So the left foot's on the mat, but the right foot is off, just so it can slide a little bit easier here. So start with that right leg long. We inhale, make it longer. Low back pulls away from the floor. And then exhale, slide the heel in towards you, flattening the lower back into the floor. We'll do a few more. You can go to the harder version if you know you want to go there. I'm going to progress this. So we inhale, lengthen, sliding that heel out. Exhale, flatten the low back, pulling, sliding the heel in. So you could keep it right here where that heel stays grounded, the head and shoulders stay grounded, or you can add the lifting the foot up, pull the knee in a little closer, flattening the lower back. We inhale, reach out. I'm trying not to push so much with my other leg. So you could keep it here where the head and shoulders stay grounded, or we can add that head and shoulder blade lifting up off the floor, shoulder blades lifting off the floor, inhale, lower. We'll do a few more here. So we're primarily working on the rectus abdominis, the central abdominal muscles, your six pack. And hip flexors are pulling that leg in towards you. One more. These are the powerful muscles that are really going to help control you at the end of the drive phase and into the finish. And as you push forward into the more passive, returning to the catch. Bringing it back into center, feet flat. Just gently rock the knees side to side, relaxing here. You'll notice too that as I do these strengthening exercises, I'll offer a little kind of relax, release, either static pose or gentle movement like this so that we can remind our muscles we want them strong, but we don't want them holding tension all the time. We'll bring the knees back into center. We're working on dead bug now. I'm going to show you the progression of this. And instead of the rectus abdominis, we're going to be working on the transverse abdominis. This is the corset type muscle that wraps horizontally around the waist. We'll start with just the legs. So I'm going to bring my feet up, knees bent. So knees are over hips, shins roughly parallel to the floor. And to engage that transverse abdominis, think about pressing your back ribs into the floor. It's not the pelvic tilt. It's just flattening the back ribs into the floor. You'll feel your waist muscles engaged. Keep that. We inhale, knee stays bent, but we tap the foot down. And exhale, pull it back up to the starting position. Alternating legs. We inhale, lower the other foot. Exhale, pulling it back up. Alternating legs, keeping the breath, keeping the back ribs pressed down into the floor. If you notice your neck muscles overly tightening here, overly engaging, you can bring the hands behind the head. This will help turn some of those neck muscles off. You could stay with just the legs, or you can add arms, which is going to add a little more challenge. So start with the arms up towards the ceiling. As I lower one foot, I lower the opposite arm overhead. Exhale them back up to the starting position. So you could keep that knee bent, that sort of 90-degree angle here as you lower and raise the foot. If you'd like more challenge here, you'd straighten the leg out, reaching it out. So the leg gets longer lever arms, so it requires more force from the core to keep the back ribs pressed down into the floor. So I am starting to feel this. I don't know about you, but I'm going to do one more on each side, keeping the breath. Pull the knees back in. You could gently hug in, holding shins or backs of thighs, and maybe a little rock side to side here. And we'll roll on over, coming up to hands and knees. And I'm going to use my blanket to pad my knees because we will be wapering on the knees for the next several poses, quite a few actually. So especially if you're on a harder surface, that might feel welcome to you. Starting in this tabletop pose where we have the knees under hips, the wrists under shoulders, and because we will be weight bearing through the arms for a few of these core exercises, remember your options here could be loose fist instead of flat palms. You could be on your forearms or forearms on the block. You're just having the elbows underneath the shoulders here. And just opening up the side body a little bit with some hip circles. So we push the hips towards one side, then towards your heels. Push the hips towards the other side and bring it forward again. So inhaling towards one side, hips back, exhaling towards the other side and bring it forward again. And I'm going slow. So especially if I run into some tightness, I don't end up overstretching it. And also so I can keep my breath lengthened, match my movement to it. If you want a little bit more stretchy sensation, you could push your ribs out towards the side a little bit more. Your hips could come closer to your heels. And then reverse directions. So the ribs coming out to the side. We start to open up through those obliques, those diagonal abdominal muscles that help us with rotation and side bending. Especially important if you're sweeping in the boat. But also here, starting to create space for the breathing, the diaphragm to contract, relax. Bring this back into hands and knees position, that tabletop. Walk your knees out a little wider than your shoulders here. We'll start to get some rotation in the spine. So we're bringing one hand behind the head. On your inhale, rotate that elbow up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, bring the elbow towards the opposite wrist. So we inhale, open the elbow up, look towards that side, exhale, elbow towards wrist. Do a couple more. Switching sides. Inhale, elbow up. Exhale, cross it over. So you'll notice the breath here as we move. And this is true of all breath cues in yoga, but certainly with the core, is whenever we open up the ribs, open up the chest, open up through the abdomen, we breathe in. As we close it, we twist it, we fold, we side bend, we breathe out. All right, bringing this back to hands and knees. So that's just about what's happening with the diaphragm, the rib cage, and the abdominal muscles as you breathe. So coming into this tabletop position here again, I've talked about sort of the sides, the top and bottom of the core. The back of the core is your back muscles, unsurprisingly, and especially these ones that run along the spine. So often in that tabletop, I'm cueing you to make a solid wall of your abdominal muscles. But I also want you to lengthen out through the spine. So think about the tailbone and the top of the head reaching out even longer. And that's going to engage the muscles that run along the length of the spine. Breathing here as you're engaging. Now you could stay right here, or I'm going to offer floating table. Some know it as bear crawl. So I tuck the toes under and lift the knees so they're just hovering up off the floor. Take a breath or two here. Still keeping that length in the spine. And then lower the knees back down. Pause here. You could do a few cat-cows or hip circles, or stand up on the knees, or sit back, shake out the wrists, roll the shoulders. So I'm going to come back to that floating table. And it could be that you hold the floating table and breathe, or you could add a twist with this one, which will be weight bearing down through one arm. Remember, you could be on your forearms. Forearms on the block work better for this. So we find the tabletop from the belly, lengthen the spine, floating table, tuck toes, knees hover. All right, so you might watch me on the first one, join if you like. So I'm going to rotate my heels over towards the right and pull my left elbow up. So my knees are bent, sort of side bent, side plank, knees bent, and then come back to that floating table. And then I rotate the heels to the left, right elbow up, looking towards the right. Exhale to the floating table. So inhale the heels towards the side, elbow up. Exhale, floating table. Other side, inhale. Exhale, floating table. So you could keep it here, or as we come into that side plank, you could try lifting the lower leg, shooting it out to the side. Bring it back in, floating table. Side, floating table. Maybe that bottom leg kicks out. Come back in. Let's do that one more time to each side. You may have stopped 3 or 4 revolutions ago and resting, totally fine. All right, lower the knees, untuck the toes, find child's or puppy pose. So remember, the difference between child and puppy is hips over heels for child's, hips over knees for puppy. Instead of reaching forward as we often do in these poses, let the elbows bend and either have hands under forehead or just forward at the top of the head. Just in case you started to engage a little too much through the neck muscles, this position, releasing tension around the neck and shoulders. Come back into that lengthened out breath. You could stay here resting a little bit longer. Or from here, we're going to make our way onto our bellies. Coming into a little low cobra. Have the hands under shoulders, elbows point towards the feet. Pull the shoulder blades towards the spine and the back waist to lift the head and chest up off the floor. And then lower back down. Let's do that again with that low cobra. So it's a subtle move, but you'll feel it in your back. Shoulder blades towards the spine, the back waist. Lift the head and chest. Very little pushing with the arms. Exhale, lower down. So you could keep it here, primarily working the upper back and those muscles along the spine, or add a little leg lift with this. So it's the shoulders back and down, lift head, chest, low cobra, neck is long. Maybe you add raising the legs. Keep the tailbone lengthening away from you. Bring the feet out and then the feet in and lower down. We'll do that again. So shoulder blades back down. Inhale, lift head, chest, maybe legs. Exhale, feet out. Inhale them together. Exhale, lower. I'm going to do two more here. Inhale, lift, neck long. Exhale, feet out. Inhale together. Exhale, lower. One more. Lower down. Rest. You could bring your arms forward to rest the head. Might bend the knees, rocking the legs side to side here. Working the back of the body on that one. The core engaging as well. Shoulder blade muscles. Working on that. Nice. Feet down. Hands under shoulders. Now we're pressing up to hands and knees. To get there, start to press up, sort of like low cobra, and then pull your low belly in to shift back into that hands and knees or that tabletop pose. So we even use the core to help us with that transition. Bring one foot back here, toes tucked. Here's our toe rocking movement. So you're shifting forward, bending through the toes, shifting back, pressing through the heel. And a few forward and backward here. And switch sides. So if you've done this class regularly, you probably know that this is our setup before going into downward facing dog. Can be a challenging pose, and for different reasons, flexibility, pressure through the hands, the positioning of the shoulders. So feel free to substitute here, puppy or child's pose, or you could come back to one of the core exercises, or do a few breaths and lower down and rest. For the down dog, we start with our hands a little forward of the shoulders, fingers spread. If you claw the pads of the fingers into the mat, your palm will dome away from the surface and take some of the work off wrists and help position the shoulders, hips up and back. And I'd like you to prioritize the lengthening of the spine rather than the straightening of the knees. So you might have to bend the knees and reach those sitting bones up and back for that long spine. Take a moment here to maybe pedal the feet or rise up on toes, release heels. Few more breaths here. Looking forward, we're stepping this left foot between the hands. And if it doesn't get there, right knee lowers, left hand helps it come forward here. And then lower the back knee, lifting the torso into that upright position. So a lot of the core strength we do lying on our back or in belly down or in plank, which is a great way to strengthen, but really we need our core in upright position. So as we start to come into standing, we're going to figure out how to engage the core here. So one thing you can do in any upright position is lengthen the tailbone down and the top of the head up. So we find length in the spine. We're actually using that transverse abdominis, some of our spinal muscles here, to decompress, to pull in, lift up like a corset. And then from here, we're bringing our left hand to the hip and the right arm up. I'm going to turn so you can see me here from the back. I lengthen up even more on that right side, arc it over a little towards the left. And then I'm going to side bend. It's almost like a side crunch. I bend that right elbow, bend the torso towards the right. Inhale, reach up and over. So I find length first. Exhale, bend the elbow as if I were pulling down with some resistance in that right hand. Inhale, reach up and over. 2 more. So here, working on the obliques a little bit with that side crunch movement. Inhale, bringing it back up. And then we'll bring both hands down around the front foot. Step it back into a down dog. Hips up and back. Find that length in the spine. You might still have the bent knees here. Shake the head out, releasing tension around the neck muscles. Looking forward. It's the right foot between the hands. Help it there. No rush. We're all lowering the back knee. Finding ourselves in that upright lunge position. Tailbone down towards the earth, top of the head up towards the sky. Breathe. Right hand on the hip, left arm up. We lengthen up even more through the left side. Subtle arc over to the right. And then we pull that left elbow down, a little crunch, side crunch here. Inhale, reach up and over. Imagine that left hand is pulling some resistance. You're going to engage your muscles a little bit more. Inhaling, lifting the head. We'll bring both hands down around that front foot. Step your back foot to the front foot. And just take a moment here. Any variation of forward fold. It could be the ragdoll version, knees bent, upper body draped over lower, or feet wide, butt back, forearms on your thighs. A second variation, protective of the spine if you have low bone density in it, herniated disc, tight hamstrings, or just more comfortable. Either pose, try a little forward, backward weight shift. Pretty subtle. Weight towards the heels, weight towards the balls of the feet. Any other little movements? Release, shake out you'd like to do here. Maybe that breath again. Inhale through the nose. Sigh out the breath. Bend the knees a little more, look forward. We're going to rise up to stand. Roll those shoulders back and down at the top of the movement. If you have the yoga block, grab it. If not, it could be a rolled up towel or pillow, or pretend that you have one. That also works. So we're coming into mountain pose, which is really just sort of standing still. We often do it at the front of the mat, sort of in the middle of sun salutations or switching to the other side of standing poses. But we're going to use it today to learn how to engage the core. And we're putting the block or whatever you have between the thighs, so just above the knees, but not up high, because we don't want to inhibit these inner thigh muscles. They're going to help us a little bit. So this is pretty subtle and it's hard to see. So listening for the cues. I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see me a little bit better, or you can see my profile. I'll pull the outer shirt up so you can see a little bit better. I like to squeeze the block between the inner legs and then roll your inner thighs, roll the knees towards each other and the inner thighs roll back. And this is going to give you like too much of a low back arch, too much like a banana arch in the low back. And then lengthen that tailbone down towards the earth and top of the head up towards the sky. So you might take some of that rotation out of the thighs. And so notice how tall you are, how much engagement you feel here in your core. Make sure you're breathing, relaxing through the shoulders. Now, if you turned everything on at like 100%, which is pretty natural, keep everything the same, but dial your effort back to like 50%. Focus your gaze on a spot straight ahead. And we're going to try that forward and backward weight shift. Very subtle. So we're going to bring our weight towards the balls of our feet and then bring it back towards our heels. So I'm shifting forward, shifting back. Movement is from my ankles as opposed to like movement forward and back, like no hula hoop type of movement here at the hips. Breathe. You'll notice as you lean back, your abdominal muscles have to work a little bit more. As you lean forward, you might feel low back. You might feel your calf muscles having to work a little bit more. Leaning back, quads, core, shin. Leaning forward, back, glutes, calves. All right, bring this back into center. Remember that feeling here. Actually, one more cue. Remember this feeling, but also think about where your front hip bones are. They're really your pelvic bones, but people think of them as their hip bones. And imagine those bones pulling in towards each other. The bones won't actually move, but that is going to engage those transverse abdominis here, muscle fibers in that low belly. Remember that feeling of how kind of buttoned up, strong, and stable you are here. And then let it go. Relax. You can even drop that block out here. We're going to come back to that in the next few poses here. So starting up at the front of your mat, take a big to medium step back with this left foot, crescent lunge. Either back heel up off the floor or shorten the stance, the back heel down. With the front knees bent over ankle or in line with it somewhere. Hips square to the front. We want to find that link so that tailbone down towards the earth, and it might mean having to bend that back knee if your quads, your hip flexors are tight of that left side. Top of the head is reaching up towards the sky. So good, we decompress the spine, engage in the abdominal muscles, and then think about those front hip bones again, and imagine pulling them in towards each other. Keep breathing. And then bring your arms up into a cactus position. So elbows bent, palms forward, a gentle squeeze of the shoulder blades towards each other. Relax those shoulder blades down your back if you can. Sometimes the upper trap muscles are a little tight, hard to do. Take a few breaths here. Keep those front hip bones pulling towards each other, the tailbone lengthening down. And then bring the hands to the hips. We're starting to hinge forward from the hips. You could probably straighten the back leg. Pause in arrow pose. This is where the torso is in line with the back leg. Like we did from hands and knees, firm the belly. Find more length in the spine. Tailbone and top of the head reaching away from each other. Hands reach towards the back foot. Thumbs down, palms in. Actively reach back. So hands actively reach towards the back foot. Neck is long, waist is long. Breathe. Inhale, lift up. Maybe sweep the arms up. Exhale, step it to the front. Shake out those legs, roll the shoulders. All right, this is the other side. So right foot back, that crescent lunge, shorten stance, back heel down or back heel up with a longer stance. Tailbone down towards the earth. You might need to bend that back knee. Top of the head reaching up. Pull your front hip bones in towards each other so you feel a little bit more of that core engagement here, the low belly. Arms come up into that cactus position. Elbows bent, palms forward. A gentle squeeze of shoulder blades, but then see if they can kind of slide down your back a little bit. Take a few breaths. So we're practicing this lengthening of the spine, engagement of the core in the upright position, so that when you're in the dry phase, and especially as you're coming in towards the finish and coming out of it, these muscles are supporting the spine, powering your movements. All right, hands to the hips, hinging forward. Pause when the torso comes in line with the back leg. Again, firm the belly, maybe a slight chin tuck here. Reach those hands back. So as you reach the fingers towards the back foot, think about lengthening that spine at the same time. Neck gets longer, waist gets longer, but you still breathe. Inhale, lift the torso, maybe arms up. Exhale, step it to the front. Shake out those legs, roll the shoulders. We're going to work on balance and core at the same time here. This is a variation of tree pose. I would suggest that you come over to a wall for this one. Even if you're like, Laura, my balance is perfect. I'd still like you to come over to the wall or a door, if you can close the door, so that if you needed to lean back against it or put a hand back, you would have it there. Or it could be a kitchen counter. So we are coming into a variation of tree pose. I'd like you to bring your 1 foot forward, spread your toes, place them down. We're gonna come into this kickstand version first. So toes down, heel just above the ankle. You could stay with that. You could bring that foot up a little higher, somewhere on the leg, maybe even pulling down for pulling that foot up. Again, think tailbone down, top of the head up. This is gonna level your pelvis. Think about pulling your front hip bones towards each other, focusing your gaze on a non-moving spot. I would say keep your hands free in case you need them. You might be like, I'm already at the limit of my stability, or maybe you try a very subtle forward, backward weight shift. So weight towards the ball of the foot, weight back towards the heel. So small little weight shift. So that first one, I wasn't sure how far I could go and I went too far and I had to put my hand out. Maybe you're putting your foot down. Keep breathing. So shin, calf, hip are working, but feel what's happening here at the core. Hopefully that's engaged. All right, let it go. Whew. Shake it out. Shake that standing leg, roll the shoulders. Other foot, lift those toes, spread them out. Shift the weight onto it. Find your variation of the tree. So it could be the toes down, and that might be where you need to be if we want to get the core here going, or bringing it up. You could always hold onto it here, but I kind of like keeping it a little bit lower. I feel like I can engage my core a little better. Tailbone down, top of the head up, right? This is, if that hip is sunk out towards the side, it's going to help level. Focusing the gaze. Stay here. This is already hard. Or that forward, backward weight shift, weight towards the ball of the foot, weight towards the heel, and it might be super subtle here. Keep breathing. If you stayed long, you're trying that little weight shift, probably feeling that core engaging. All right, let it go. Bring that foot down. Shake it out. Roll the shoulders. All right, we are coming back down onto the mat into hands and knees here. And another variation of side plank. And weight bearing through the arms, you can do this on the forearm. If you have the yoga blocks, I do think having the shoulders closer to hip height is better. So having a couple yoga blocks underneath there instead of hand down might be helpful for you. So a couple of options here. One is to keep the knee down, but we're going to step our left foot back. And it could be that you lower that left heel, slide the right foot off to the right, and come into this knee down side plank variation. Or you could have both feet back, rotate the heels to the right, come into that knee up side plank variation. So we're working lots of things here, but the obliques on that right side. You could stay with this or come into a tree pose here. So the top knee bending. Breathe. And then we'll bring the foot down. Bring this here into plank. Lower both knees. Maybe shake out that right hand. Wag the tail. So options for the other side would be right foot back. And then sole of the right foot down. Left foot off to the left. Here's that knee down plank variation. Or it could be both knees up to plank, both heels over to the left, right arm up. So I have my feet sort of like I'm on a tightrope. You could stay with this. This could be challenging enough, or bending that top leg to bring it into a tree pose here. Keep breathing. All right, bring the foot down, hand down, and then lower the knees. Find that child's or puppy pose here. Lowering the head, resting. Take a few breaths. Making your way onto your belly. We're coming into a Sphinx pose. This is an upper back bend, but if you're feeling it really strongly in the lower back, you could come into a low cobra instead of the Sphinx, or you could turn on your back and come into a bridge pose instead. So for Sphinx, we have the elbows under the shoulders, forearms parallel to each other. You could just kind of sink into this, but then you really get very little of the strength work out of it. So think about lengthening the tailbone towards your feet. You'll feel the pubic bone press into the floor. Press into your forearms so you rise out of the shoulders a little bit. Pull the shoulder blades towards the spine and the back waist like we do in low cobra. Press a little bit more down into your arms. So you feel this arcing back bend from the mid back up to the base of the skull. Now you could stay here. There's a lot of core back work happening with this, or transitioning in and out of plank pose. So for the first two, I'm going to do knee down and then I'll do it knee up. You could decide where you'd like to go with this. So I'm going to press into both knees and lift my hips just a few inches off the floor to come into this forearm knee down plank. And then lower the hips, inhale, chest forward. So exhale, push into the knees, forearms, lift your hips just a few inches. And then inhale, lower, chest forward to Sphinx. So you could keep it at the knee down version or tuck your toes. Exhale, lift just a few inches to the forearm plank. Inhale, lower hips, chest forward, Sphinx. Whatever variation, or just stay in Sphinx or rest. Exhale, plank. Inhale, Sphinx. I'm doing two more. Lower down, or come into Sphinx actually, and then go ahead and lower down and rest. Maybe a little wiggle to the hips here, turning the head. Coming into a frog leg position. So we're going to bend that left knee, bring it out to the side. So my inner left knee is resting here on the floor. Resting the head here down on the hands or cheek on the floor, whatever is comfortable for you here. If there's a lot of stretch on the inner left thigh, you can always roll away from it a little bit, come into like halfway between belly down and side lying position. Here in this pose, to release tension on the back of that left hip. So this is more of a relaxation position. We are not working the core here. We're not stretching, we're not strengthening, but allowing the body to rest. Each exhale an opportunity to relax a little further into this. Slowing the breathing down. Returning to your intention for the practice. This could feel pretty good. Staying here is an option, or we could turn this into a reclined twist. So I'm going to keep the frog leg, but come up into that Sphinx in the upper body. Lift your left elbow. Slide the right arm underneath, so it's sort of a thread the needle motion. So you come to lie on your right shoulder. You can either slide a yoga block under there or bring that right hand underneath. And then this top arm, come into that bent elbow cactus position. And then roll so that the chest and the gaze is up towards the ceiling. And the back of that left arm is releasing down towards the floor. If the floor is really far away, this is a nice place to put a block or folded blanket underneath that arm. That left knee probably slid up off the floor Totally fine. Breathe. We're going to roll onto our belly again, straightening that left leg, and then the frog leg position on the right. So right knee bending, inner knee resting on the floor, arms, head, wherever it feels the most comfortable, wherever you can relax the most here. Slowing the breathing down again. Coming back to that intention, bringing this thought to the front of your mind one more time. This pose releasing tension on the back of the hip, glutes, piriformis muscles. You could stay here or turning this into the twist. So my right leg stays in the frog leg, but I'm coming up into that sphinx. Lift the right elbow up. Left arm slides underneath. So you come to rest on that left side of the shoulder. Could be you slide a block or a folded blanket under here, or bend that elbow to support the head. Right arm, top arm, come into that cactus position. Roll so the chest, the gaze face up towards the ceiling. Hopefully it doesn't slide off the view. Come back. If that arm is way up off the floor and maybe it's putting some stress on that right shoulder, putting a block underneath there is a really nice option. That right knee most likely slid up off the floor, and it might be sort of hanging a few inches off the floor here. I'm going to go ahead and bend both knees, rolling onto your back, perhaps scooching your way back onto the mat here. Then coming into a hip flexor stretch. So from a supported bridge, I'm using the block, could be a folded blanket or a foam roller here, but lifting up and sliding that prop underneath the sacrum. So above the fleshy part of the buttocks, but below the low back. We'll pull one knee in, holding to the shin or the back of the thigh here. You're not pulling in tight because it's really more about that straight leg. So the other leg, we straighten it out, let the heel rest down. And maybe you're already feeling some lengthening here through the hip flexors, or you could add that leg lengthener sort of as we did at the beginning, but more subtle, less of the back bend. So we inhale, push out through that heel of the straight leg. Exhale, relax it. You could do that a few more times. If you want to get into the abdominal muscles, stretching them, that leg that's straight, reach the same side arm overhead, and you reach the heel and the hand away from each other. A few of those lengthening out through that whole side of the body. And then we switch sides. Straight leg could be enough just to gravity. I'm feeling quite a bit of stretch here. Could try that little leg lengthener, inhaling, pushing out through the heel, exhale, relax. Maybe you add the arm and you might feel some of that stretch through the abdomen a little bit, maybe those obliques. And bring both feet flat. Lift your hips and take that prop out from underneath you here. Lowering on down. Finding yourself in a happy baby. So some options with this one too. Knees in, but bring them out wider than your hips. So knees are out a little wide. Relaxed happy baby. This is really nice. Holding the backs of the thighs, gently rocking. If you'd like to have a little bit more sensation in the legs, the lower back, you might be holding ankles or it could be soles of feet and gently rocking here. Maybe even stretch a leg out as you rock towards that side. Lowering the feet back down. We're heading in towards Shavasana relaxation. We worked on strength and control, and some of it might have been a little bit of a like brain teaser and cognitive task for you. Remember, as we learn new skills, as we do challenging things for our bodies, if we give ourselves a little bit of a rest or a break, our bodies actually integrate this information better. So it's a very opportune time and is part of our yoga practice for the Shavasana, the relaxation position, and the relaxation time. So decide if there's something you'd like to do before we go there, and think about how you'd like to set yourself up for Shavasana. It might be nice to have the legs up on a chair, kind of releasing, relaxing through the back and the hips, the legs up the wall. You could have a roll underneath the back of the neck or under the spine. Could be covering up with a blanket, putting on socks, putting on a sweater. I'm going to use a little roll under the back of my neck here for my Shavasana. You don't have to use any props, right? Could just be resting position of your choosing. As we did at the beginning of the practice here, as you settle into your position of rest, take an inhale through the nose. Sigh out the breath. Let it be audible. And again, let the breath go. No longer worrying about how or when we're breathing. Letting the body breathe itself. Allowing yourself to rest, knowing that there's nowhere else you need to be at this point. Nothing on your to-do list that can't wait another few minutes. Giving your body this opportunity, your brain the permission to rest, to slow down, to stop doing and just be. Start to deepen your breath. Find some little movements at the fingers, the toes, ankles, wrist. Maybe moving up a joint, wrist, elbows, ankles, knees, hips. Maybe you reach your arms overhead and inhale, lengthen through the whole body. Exhale, let it go. Bend the knees, roll to your side, pausing for a moment here. Take a few more deep breaths, appreciating your body, your breath, your health, and this yoga practice. Being gentle, press up to seated position. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice, your energy. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.